Hey, welcome back. Had a week hiatus there. Actually, I'd done a film of albums that didn't make it, but I didn't like it, so screw that, and we just won't go with a video for a week. Kind of kills me. But this week we're back, and we're going to look at number 20 down to number 11. So what's sad about this week is I can't play any samples. Everything this week's blocked, so I'm sorry. You're going to have to kind of explore some of this. But I think almost all of the music you're going to recognize and know. So let's begin with number 20. Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here. This came out in 1975. This is an album. It's kind of its criticism on the music industry. It's about alienation, and also it's a tribute to Syd Barrett, who had left the group 7 years earlier due to deteriorating mental health, and they examined that type of issue. It's their 9th studio album. 13 million albums later, David Gilmour and Richard Wright said it's their favorite Pink Floyd album, and I tend to agree with them. For a long time, it was always Dark Side of the Moon, but this album has grown and grown on me, and I just like how it's put together, and overall, just a sonic beauty. The album, it begins with this quiet, it's the whir of a wine glass with wetted fingers over the top of the wine glass. That's how it starts off. And then a quiet synthesizer comes in and just slowly builds until finally there's the 4-note guitar phrase that's going on, and it's reminiscent of echoes. Just listen to echoes and listen to that, and you'll see it, you can hear it. And to me, it's one of the best openings that Pink Floyd has ever had. So begins the song Shine On You Crazy Diamond. It's 9 parts, 25-minute long tribute to Syd Barrett. And they have other songs interspersed within it along the way. Some of the lyrics that come from that is, remember when you were young and you shone like the sun. And then there was the sun and you reached, let's see, it goes, the sun and you reached for the secret too soon. You cried for the moon. I mean, it's really heartbreaking stuff. You know, one of the most famous songs is Have a Cigar, and it's sung by Roy Harper, much to Roger Waters' anger, because he says, I can do that. But Roy Harper was perfect for it. And it's like one of the best bite the hand that feeds me songs in the world, as they just go after every rock cliche that's out there. And they have that immortal line where the head of the record industry is talking to him, and he looks at the group and goes, by the way, which one of you is pink? Beautiful stuff. I mean, it's the rocker on the album, and you can just hear Waters' bass. It's just jumping all over the place in there, along with Gilmour's soaring guitars. I'll tell you, Gilmour's guitars just sound incredible on this whole album. The album has one of the greatest rock stories in history. As they were playing this, there was suddenly a very heavy-set balding man that was there staring at them, and they couldn't figure out who it was until I believe it was Wright. Amazing. Oh, wait, that's Syd Barrett, and that's my dryer going off. I didn't plan that one right. So, they began to talk to him, and they go, he had no eyebrows, no hair, everything was shaved off, and he's really heavy. And they go, Syd, what happened? How'd you get so heavy? And he goes, well, I have a lot of pork chops at home that I eat. All right. So they're talking with him, and they're telling him what, and he says, well, I'm here to help. Okay, so they began to explain the concept of the album, and nothing. It's just blank. He's not picking up any of it. Well, they stopped recording, and David Gilmour, in the canteen, he's having like a wedding reception. He just recently got married, so he invited Syd. So Syd goes in there, and they talk a while, but Syd disappears, and they never saw him again. And that's how it goes. What a great story, huh? This album, it has songs, they have a majesty about them. The way they build an intensity and the heavy use of the synthesizer to create new and even more inventive sounds. The album, it's just filled with this, with long and winding soundscapes. And to me, it's some of Gilmour's best guitar work. It's number 20 on my list, Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here. Number 19, Big Star's #1 record. This came out in 1972. I remember buying this in CD form in the 90s. It came out as a 2-pack. You could buy #1 record and Radio City. And I put it on. It didn't do anything for me. I really wasn't that impressed with it, and I put it away. Well, then came A New Century. And I heard this song called 13. I go, what is that? That is great. And I looked into it and found out, oh my God, I have that on CD. Well, a few years back, I was able to find this a first press in a record store. And shall we say, it's one of those treasures that I have in my collection, because this is a beautiful album. This thing is rated as, one of the 500 greatest albums of all time. And when it came out, it sold 10,000 copies. In fact, if you wanted to buy it, you could find it in the cutout bins. That's where this thing was at. I guess it just took a while for people to catch up to Big Star, The founding members was Alex Chilton and Chris Bell, and they were heavily influenced by the Beatles. And you can hear that in the guitar work, and definitely hear it in their songwriting and in their harmonies. This is the only This is the only album that has Chris Bell in it. The other Big Star albums, Chris Bell's not on there. And he was an important influence for really some of the best sounds that came out of Big Star. He was the man really that had the technical abilities. The album here, when you think about it, every song on this album could have been a single. They are that good. And it really is where the phrase, I believe, power pop came from. This kind of album coined it. It really had these sunshine harmonies, but yet it was mixed with songs about heartbreak and longing. Really incredible stuff. I mean, it begins with what you hear in the background. It's a rocker called Feel. It just has this jangly guitars and soaring harmonies going on. It's the album, the song 13 is the one that really caught my attention, which to me, it's one of rock's most beautiful celebrations of adolescence. It's just this perfect melancholy type ballad, and it easily gets stuck within your head. My goodness, it's so good. It's just an acoustic masterpiece. It has these quiet harmonies that elevate the song, but then it's the lyrics. Won't you let me walk you home from school? Won't you let me meet you at the park? Great stuff on adolescence. And then they're talking, and he goes, won't you tell your dad to get off my back? Tell him what we said about painted black. Great lyrics. This album was actually met with some critical acclaim, but Stax just was unable to make it available, and so when it came out, no one could find it, and it just sunk and disappeared. And now, what a masterpiece of an album! If you want to hear what power pop really sounds like, Big Star #1 record is the way to go. Just an incredibly beautiful album. Number 19. #1 record from 1972. Number 18, The Modern Lovers from 1972. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, road runner, going 1,000 miles an hour with the radio on. that's how this thing opens up. Man, it blows your hair away. You know, in the mid-70s, I saw this movie, but it was by Mad Magazine. It was called Up the Academy. Terrible movie, but it starts with Roadrunner. And I became an instant fan. I had no idea who the Modern Lovers were. What? Not a clue. I bought the soundtrack so I could have that song. My God, isn't that just, I mean, it's just like one of the greatest driving songs ever made. It's a 2-chord wonder, and it's been covered by a billion garage bands. Jonathan Richman himself, he was a huge Velvet Underground band, and in fact, John Cale did 6 of the tracks on here when suddenly, Richman said, well, I can do this myself, and I'd rather do it. This album was released in 1976, and that was 2 years after the breakup of the Modern Lovers. That's how long it took to come out. They were just trying to figure out what the hell to do with the whole thing. On the album, I mean, he embraces the modern world, but then he sings about his love for the old world. He sings about being attracted to self-destructive women, and in songs like She's Cracked in Hospital, but also he sings about the new romance and girlfriend and someone to care about. This album is so full of contradictions, but it's quirky and it's catchy. What's playing on now is Pablo Picasso. Pablo Picasso, he's only 5'3", but girls could not resist his stare. And no one ever called Pablo Picasso an asshole, not like you and me. I mean, great stuff. And when you listen to it, you hear like this repetitive piano part going on. That's John Cale playing. He sings the song I'm Straight, and it's just a nervous, nice guy, kind of geek rock song that would sound perfect within the Talking Heads. With the guitarist, Gerry Harrison, guess what? He went on to play in the Talking Heads. Kind of a sad story on here. One of Jonathan Richman's best friends was Graham Parsons. And the day before Graham Parsons died, he was playing miniature golf with him. And the next day he died, and they were recording this album, and it really made it tough on Richman. He had a really hard time trying to get the recording completed because of that. This album, it's just plain fun music. Each song, it's joyful, it's upbeat. Richman, he kind of sings and talks and has this really nasally voice, but he is backed by a power band. And to me, this is a building block of new wave that was just right around the corner. My number 18, Modern Lovers. The Modern Lovers from 1972. Number 17, the B-52s. B-52s from 1979. The album cover says it all, doesn't it? This is going to be a whole lot of fun. This band, they came out of Athens, Georgia, and they were this new wave band, and they had kitschy lyrics, and they had this mood that was filled with just hook-laden harmonies. You couldn't have a party in college in the late 70s unless you had played the B-52s. This album, it's about bad hairdos, sci-fi nightmare, dance crazes, and it's a fusion of pop and surf with a dash of punk added in. The guitarist Ricky Wilson, he had this really unorthodox tuning. Of the 6 strings, he took out the 2 middle strings, so he only had 2 strings he played on high notes, 2 strings he played for the low notes, and that was it. Just, hey, why bother with those ones in the middle? There was Fred Schneider, and he was just all about just kind of yelping around and talking through the lyrics, and of course there was the harmonies of Kate Pearson and Cindy Wilson. The other thing with the lead singer Fred Schneider, he kind of looked like a cross between Groucho Marx and Jonathan Waters. I mean, talk about quirky. The album begins with what's playing in the background, Planet Claire, because on Planet Claire, it's where everyone has pink hair. This was not deep stuff, okay? It just wasn't, but it was fun. I mean, it begins with this Morse code beeps, and then this Peter Gunn riff just comes in. It's followed up by Pearson's keys, and these wordless vocals are going on, these oohs and the ahs, and that takes up the first 2.5 minutes. Before Schneider even comes in and starts his yelling about a planet where all the trees are red and no one dies there, no one has a head. God, where'd they come up with that crap? There's 52 girls, and that's as close as you're going to get to a punk song on the album, but it's filled with these frantic beats. Rock Lobster, another great song. It has this quirky 50s style organ and surf guitar going on. It's about being at a party where suddenly they saw a rock, but it wasn't a rock. It was a rock lobster. And just absolute fun. Ricky Wilson claimed that's the worst guitar riff that's ever been made in the history of music. There's no dark songs on here. If there is, it's probably called Hero Worship. And that's kind of maybe toward the first Riot Girls song to some aspect. And it's really subversive. And I believe it's Cindy Wilson talking about giving, God give me his soul. She's pretty angry. They eventually, in the very last song, they covered Petula Clark's Downtown. It's kind of like they ran out of material, but they needed one more song. This is a great album. What a great debut from 1979, the B-52s. B-52s. Number 16, Gerry Rafferty, City to City from 1978. Have you ever had an album that's like an old friend? Every time that you meet them, you smile and you feel really good and warm and think about the past. That's what this album is to me. This is an album of joy and beauty where each and every song makes me just want to sing along. This was an important album of my college years, and to this day I have the whole thing on my iPod, the whole thing on my phone, because every song is important to me. Wow, did you see that cat jump up on there? Holy crap, that was a heck of a thing. The song Baker Street is on here, and that is just a masterpiece of pop production. I mean, it has Rafferty has these McCartney style vocals, Gesundheit, and it just has this haunting central melody that's going on, and these mysterious yearning lyrics, and the sax solo in itself is worth the price of admission. I mean, I memorized every lyric. What was interesting about that song was it's his song that he's saying he doesn't like fame and he doesn't want a lot of fame. Well, guess what? Baker Street gave him tons of fame. So it kind of went the opposite way. The album opens with The Ark, which is what you hear playing right now. It has this Celtic flavored thumping going on. And, the intro starts with the fiddle and the mandolin. And then it just breaks into this beautiful, pleasant ballad. It could be on a Badfinger album, quite honestly. The title song, City to City, has a bluegrass feel to it, complete with a train whistle coming, being made by her harmonica. Just a little fast-paced ditty. It's just so much fun. Right down the line is an upbeat song of romance, and has this wonderful steel guitar that's playing on there, and the lyrics, they feel vibrant and they feel young. And again, the harmonies are incredible. This guy, he understood how to make them, and just like a Beatle type feel. There's Maddie's Rag, which is a very upbeat, bouncing tune that has a dobro in it, and just another more fiddle and strings happening. Whatever's in Your Heart. It's a beautiful, wonderful ballad that almost sounds like a gospel song until Rafferty comes in and adds his kind of McCartney type piano to it. Beautiful album, incredible album. It sold millions and millions, and to this day, I think it's still one of the most wonderful albums ever made. Number 16, Gerry Rafferty, City to City. Categories. Number 15, Gotan Project, La Revancha del Tango from 2001. There was a movie in the aughts. It was called Shall We Dance, and featured Richard Gere and Jennifer Lopez. And Gere was learning how to dance, and Lopez was trying to show him how to dance with passion because he's supposed to be doing this contest, dance contest. And so they danced to the song called Santa Maria, and I had chills. That song single-handedly made me love that movie. I had no idea who made it, what it was about. I just knew that I was affected, and I got affected with tango, and it's catchy, let me tell you. The song, that song Santa Maria, it's been featured in so many movies and TV shows, along with a lot of other songs that are on here. Gotan it's a French musical group that combines electronics with tango music. The album, it mixes dub and downbeat along with traditional Argentine melodies. And they created these tango masterpieces like Santa Maria and Tropico and El Capitalismo Foráneo. Who the hell knows, huh? This is about melody exploration, the whole thing. The accordion soars in and out of the various electronic beats that are being laid down. On Santa Maria, there's just this throbbing bass line that's going on, and there's just a steady rim shot that's happening that propels the song forward, and that's what you can hear in the background, Santa Maria. I really wish I could play a sample. The Argentine tango is a music of seduction and music of passion. When listening to each song, I mean, you can get the feel that you're in this smoke-filled room, and it's a small room, and on this small stage, there's an accordion, and he's playing this music, and it brings people to the dance floor. As the music smolders and sparks fly around the room, as everybody gets closer and closer, as they hold each other tightly and their bodies just form together. That's what tango's all about. Flips, kicks, beautiful stuff. Music of passion. This is not traditional tango music. This is for the 21st century. Pull up Santa Maria on YouTube, and you can see tons of videos of people dancing to it, of clips from movies, and listen to it. And see if you too get caught up in the beauty of tango. Number 52, Gotan Project, La Revancha del Tango from 2001. Number 14, The Talking Heads, more songs about buildings and food from 1978. I was sitting in the dorm lounge in 1978 in college. I was watching Saturday Night Live, and they introduced the musical guests, the Talking Heads. Suddenly they break into this weird rhythm, and this tall, skinny guy comes out and sings, I'm painting again. I'm cleaning again. I'm cleaning my brain. My goodness, what the heck is this about? It was at that very moment that I said, this is my band. I own this band. And I became a loyal follower from then on. Next day I went out to the record store and I bought this album. And what an incredible album it is. This was the first one that Eno produced with the Talking Heads. So it's mixed with like spacey disco, and you can start to feel the beginning of Afro-funk surrounded by this minimalistic rock. The rhythm section of Chris France and Tina Weymouth, they created these complex beats thanks to the help of Eno that are danceable. I mean, this thing bursts out of the gate. You can hear the song, the very first song on here, Girls Want to Be with Girls. It has just this snare drum, and then this guitar laying down this rhythm, and then Burns' voice just builds in intensity in a very fun and happy way. I mean, the song is so darn quirky, but it just makes you want to get up and start grooving. I mean, there's this staccato attack, and it has this mid-60s like garage rock feel to it, but yet nursery rhyme type lyrics. That song, Artists Only, it's dark. There's just this bass that's going on, and even the guitar work has this dark feeling. And then there's their version of Al Green's Take Me to the River. You know how Devo took Satisfaction and made it their own? Talking Heads took Take Me to the River and absolutely turned it on its head. And it came out as a song full of intensity and full of power. And once again, Tina Weymouth's bass, I mean, she's in the front seat on this thing as she just plods her way right through, backing up Burns' eccentric way up that he sings. The closing song, it's called Big Country. It's a country-tinged song. And it's about a reflection of flying over Middle America. And he's looking down on Middle America with regret and kind of revulsion as he goes, I wouldn't live here if you paid me to. Still, yet in the song he sings about how he's looking for someplace to be. He's kind of laughing at the Puritan lifestyle. And such an amazing album. You could call it art rock, whatever. It was, the beginning of new wave, and this group made a huge statement with this. Number 14, Talking Heads, more songs about building and food. Number 13, World Party, Goodbye Jumbo from 1990. James Griffith recently sent me the vinyl version of this album. And you talk about an emotional experience. It was this album. I'd been looking for it for years and could never find it out in the wild. And I just, am I ever going to find it? Well, I have to finally order online. And then he sent it to me. This is an album that I consider to be perfect in almost every way. The influences of the Beatles are all over this. If you like the Beatles, man, this is something for you. When you think of it in regards to the sense of the pop and studio craft, it's very much like them. And then it's mixed with Kurt Wallinger's biting humor. And he just created two memorable sides of melodies and moments. I mean, this album, it's just chock full of great pop moments that just bore into one another. It's sophisticated guitar pop at its very best. There's the incredible up-tempo melodies such as Way Down Now, Put the Message in the Bottle, Show Me to the Top. But then there's also tunes that deal with heartbreak and extremely emotional and fragile, like I Fell Back Alone. The song that I'm playing right now, Way Down, I mean, it echoes of the Rolling Stones' Sympathy for the Devil, because you'll hear Wallinger, he breaks into woo-hoo, just like on Sympathy for the Devil. As you listen to this album, you're going to hear Beatles, you can hear ELO in there, it's all over the place. The song Put the Message in the Box, it's a song of just pure beauty. There's tinges of psychedelic organ going on, but the playing, again, it's filled with oohs and ahs. It would sound perfect on a Beatles album, quite honestly. And just the beautiful lyrics of put the message in the box, put the box inside the car, drive the car around the world until you get heard. What great stuff. There's this Thank You World, Show Me to the Top, the sweet song God on My Side. Just, I mean, so moved me. This is one of those incredible albums that's well worth to listen to. Pull up and listen to it, see what it sounds like. It truly, in my eyes, is a real masterpiece. World Party, Goodbye Jumbo from 1990. Number 12, Miles Davis, Bitches Brew from 1970. A few hours after Jimi Hendrix performed the Star Spangled Banner at Woodstock, they began to record this album. And Davis, he wanted to make a statement, so instead of using a quartet or a quintet, he decided to double the instruments. 2 on percussion, 2 on bass, 2 on drum, 2 to 3 on keyboards. And when you listen to it, the rhythm section itself, it's fairly orthodox. You have kind of like these whip crack rim shots going on, kick drums, and these rubbery bass lines that came right from Sly and the Family Stone. But everything else was, oh my God, so totally different, new. This is Davis's Sgt. Pepper's album, in all honesty. I mean, the concept really sounded easy. What Davis had, what Miles wanted to do is he had this chord, and he wanted all his players to play this chord. But they could play whatever they wanted as long as he heard this chord. Now, most of these people, they hadn't played together, so this made it interesting, but also made it extremely difficult. And they wouldn't play a whole song. They did everything in sections, and then Davis would put those sections together. Also, as far as amplifying, he had like on his horn, it was amplified 3 different ways. I mean, it was being recorded 3 different ways. One was a mic hooked right to the trumpet, another to the amplifier, and another to the soundboard. It allowed him to create these sonic landscapes. What you hear on there is you'll hear one bass drummer, one bass player, one drummer, one percussionist. Hey, that's easy for you to say. They would lay down the beat, but then the other bass drummer, God bless it, the other bass player, drummer, and percussionist would be going and swirling all around them, adding this density to the songs. At times they'd have 3 different keyboard players playing at once, and this just created, they began clashing and throwing out these different chord clusters that had never been heard. And soaring above all this was Miles Davis' trumpet, and then there was Wayne Shorter's soprano and John McLaughlin's guitar. I mean, this album made Miles Davis relevant again, and it set everything out in a whole new direction. For me, this had funk to it, more so than any of the other type music that was coming out. When you think of the fusion and that, Miles Davis understood funk, and he put that in. Sit, listen to it. Listen to the rhythm sections that are going on. It's pure funk in that background, and you could hear his his love of Sly Stone and what he was doing. This album, it brought jazz to the rock masses. An extremely important album, and for me, number 12 on my list, Miles Davis, Bitches Brew. Number 11, Drive-By Truckers, American band. This came out in 2016. The Drive-By Truckers have always been a political band, but this album really showed their anger and their frustration of what was happening around them. Patterson Hood and Mike Cooley, who are the main songwriters, they made a major statement with this album. The album starts off with this Muscle Shoals type punk song, which you can hear in the background, called Ramon Cassiano. And it's about a murder that happened in 1932 by a gun rights activist named Harlan Carter, who shot and killed a 15-year-old Hispanic boy in Texas who was unarmed. but he escaped incarceration. They didn't put him in jail, and instead, this Harlan Carter went on to become the leader of the NRA and made them into a huge political wing. And they bring in then the thoughts of what goes on today with Trayvon Martin. There's the songs, the Guns of Umpqua, I believe it's called Umpqua. It's a sobering examination of the horrific shootings that went on in a community college in Oregon back in 2015. There's this peaceful feeling to the song as someone's hiking in the hills, but then they hear about the shooting and the lyrics. You hear, just a sample of the lyrics. Heaven's calling my name from the hallway outside the door. And they keep saying that, heaven's calling my name from the hallway outside the door, which is where the shooter was at. It's haunting. It is so haunting, but it's just done in this quiet, beautiful way. It's tragic, and it can bring tears to your eyes. It is that powerful of a song. How can that happen? How can that be accepted in society? And that's what they're saying. How can it be? What it means is a hard-edged song that asks questions, and really it looks at human progress. And do we have progress as society when young black men like Michael Brown and Trayvon Martin are killed and that no one's held accountable? It reflects upon the systematic racism that's been swelling, and they have this organ that plays this honks, and has a soft honky-tonk two-step going on and hand claps. That's all part of the song. The album, it does not speak in metaphors. No, this thing, it speaks the truth. It's very direct in its feelings and what is happening in America. I mean, it's remarkably nuanced in that it's quiet, but it's not a quiet anger. The album is not about slogans or anything like that, but instead it's about what is happening around us. To me, this is one of the most important albums that I have ever listened to. It rocks, but it has a quiet beauty, and the lyrics are so unsettling. Such an amazing album. Timely album that should be listened to. We should just sit back and go, geez, really? We accept it. Wow. Number 11, Drive-By Truckers, American band from 2016. Well, there we got it. We only got 10 albums left to go. So for those that have been hanging in, hey, huge appreciation to this. This is a lot of fun. What am I going to do when I get done? I'm not quite sure with this, but we got 10 more of my favorite go-to albums of all time. Hope you're enjoying this. Appreciate you watching again as always, and have a wonderful rest of your week.